All right. Good morning, financial algebra. Sorry I'm not here with you. My daughter is sick, so I am home. I'm possibly sleeping in right now. You've got your class, um, but let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to email me if you have anything. But the sub should have passed out your new guided notes for this unit. We're talking about employment. So our first section is just pay periods and hourly rates. It's pretty straightforward. For those of you that have jobs, this should be not anything crazy. So let's start with how people find jobs. Now might be a good time to pause the video and have a quick discussion as a class. For those of you that got jobs, how did you find your job? It could have been someone or you saw an ad. So go ahead and pause the video and talk quick as a class about how you found jobs. Okay, so some other ideas other than maybe what you've shared or if you made a list on your own. Some people find jobs in the classified ads or newspaper, online listings. I know recently Facebook, like the Boone for sale site or like the Boone community page is always posting like, I need someone to work such and such, or Menards is hiring. So you can look online. Friends and family are always good contacts. They kind of know what's out there. If you get an internship, that's a great in for a job. Doing volunteer work gets you out in the community. You get to know what's available. Advancements and employment agencies as well. So lots of different ways that you can figure out what you might be good at or what you want to try working on. Okay, so when you accept a job, one of the forms that they're going to give you is called a W-4. And it's your employee withholding allowance certificate. And it looks something like this. It'll be on a full sheet, and then you're supposed to rip it off partway through and give part of it back to your employer. So what this form essentially does is tell your employer how much to take out for taxes. Okay. Um, so let's talk about what the different things mean. First off, you've got your name, your social security number, home address. You've got that single, married, probably single, right? Number of allowances, additional amount if you want withheld, and then a claim exemption. So allowance. An allowance, each allowance you have reduces the amount withheld. So it's kind of like a dependent. If you have someone that is dependent on you financially, then you want to identify that there. But otherwise, probably just one. And then exemption means you don't think you're going to owe any taxes at all. Withheld because you have no tax liability. What that means is you don't think you're going to earn enough money to be exempt, or for another reason you're not going to have to owe any taxes. So that would be why you might identify as exempt. Okay. So exempt means you don't want any income taxes removed from your paycheck. If your income is less than $950 or you got a full refund last year, that might be a reason why you might be exempt. And then allowance is the more allowances equals more money kept out of your paycheck. 0 is the most taxes taken out. So if you had like 3 allowances, that means the government is going to let you keep more of your money. Okay, so just a quick video.
Hey guys, welcome to Teens and Taxes. This is the first video that the Department of Revenue is creating to help teens understand how taxes work. So you're probably thinking, I'm a teen, why do I care about taxes? That stuff's for my parents. Well, stay tuned because as soon as you get your first job, even if it's just a weekend or a summer job, you're going to have to learn what taxes are about. So before you spend that paycheck at the mall, you're going to need a few basics. Here's the forms. Thanks. You're welcome. Alright, so here we are, first day on the job. So far so good. You're in, you're meeting new people, and you're handed some official looking forms. What's that about? Alright, here's the deal. One of those forms is going to be a W-4 form. A W-4 form lets the government know how many dependents you have, which in turn your company uses to see how much money to take out of your check. So, what is a dependent? A dependent is somebody you support financially, say like a child. It's important because it lets the government know how much money to take out of your paycheck. But since most teens don't really support anybody financially, except maybe that one moocher friend, you'll only claim one deduction, yourself. And if you're not sure, just ask your parents. I'm sure they're W-4 experts by now. And I'm sure you're wondering, why are they taking money out of my paycheck? Well, as a bona fide worker bee, you get to help pay for things now, like roads and education. Welcome to the real world.
All right. So, while you're still in school, there's no automatic exemption from state and federal taxes. And that means that most students will end up having taxes taken out of your paychecks. And then you'll file a tax return each year. In our next unit, we'll look more at taxes. But the idea of a tax return is you identify to the IRS how much money you made and go through some different calculations. And then you may get some money back or you may owe more money in. So oftentimes for students, you'll get that money back. Okay. Students are exempt from FICA taxes, which we'll talk about in 10.3 if you're attending school at least half-time. So our first example is, let's say your first job has a salary of $24,000. What would be your gross weekly salary? So what gross means is before any deductions or taxes are taken out. Okay, so it's just the raw salary amount. And that's the part that's frustrating sometimes for students to hear is you hear like $7.25 an hour or $10 an hour. Well, that doesn't mean you're going to take home $300 for working 30 hours. Like, you're going to have to get some deductions from that. So gross is just the total amount before taxes. Okay, so the K means 1,000. So what you would do is take 24 times 1,000, and that means 24,000. So your salary is 24,000. And then if you're finding the weekly salary, that means you get a portion of that salary every week. So you want to divide by how many weeks there are in a year, which is 52, and you'll get 461 and 54 cents. Okay. If we're going too fast, feel free to pause the video and allow students to work through it kind of at their own pace. Okay, the next example is that Alex gets paid $1,024 every 2 weeks. Compute his annual salary. Okay, so every 2 weeks means bi-weekly. Okay, how many paychecks would you get if you got paychecks every 2 weeks? Okay, there's 52 weeks in a year, and you're basically getting paychecks half of those weeks if it's every other week. So 52 divided by 2 is 26. So you would be getting 26 paychecks throughout the year. And the reason we want to know that is we're trying to find his annual salary. Annual means yearly. So we want to figure out how much total is Alex getting over the course of the year. We would take 1,024 times 26 and get 26,624. Okay, so this brings up how people could get paid. And I don't have, the numbers to fill in, so I'm just going to talk through it. Very rarely are people paid annually, but I guess that's an option. So annually it would just be one time a year, and you get one paycheck per year. Some people are paid monthly. For example, the employees of Ames Community School District, we get paid on the 20th of every month. So we just get paid one time every month. That means how often is once a month, and that means we would get 12 paychecks per year. My husband gets paid semi-monthly. So semi-monthly means twice a month. Okay, twice a month. So he's paid on the 1st and the 15th of every month. It's often related to like every other week-ish, but depending on how many days are in the month, it varies. Okay, so he's semi-monthly. That means he gets paid 24 times per year. So 24 paychecks per year for semi-monthly. Some people are paid weekly, so that would be 52 paychecks per year. And then bi-weekly is every other week. So oftentimes it's like every other Friday. Okay, so every other week. And that one we had decided in the previous example was 26 paychecks per year. Okay, so an interesting thing to think about is, are people who are paid monthly, are they paid more than people who are paid weekly or bi-weekly or semi-monthly? What do you think? Are they paid more? Go ahead and pause the video and have a quick discussion. Are people who are paid monthly paid more than people who are paid semi-monthly, weekly, or bi-weekly? Okay, the answer is, well, the people who are paid monthly may have bigger paychecks. It doesn't mean they're paid more because they're not paid as often. So, oftentimes it's frustrating to have fewer paychecks, but those paychecks are bigger. So it's kind of a catch-22 or something to think about, that if you're paid more often, it doesn't necessarily mean you're paid more, right? It probably means your paychecks are going to be smaller than someone who's paid less. So it's just, every company is different, something to think about. Okay, minimum wage. This is often a hot topic with students because you guys are the ones that feel the minimum wage changes. So what do you think the first minimum wage was, and when was it? Okay, take a guess. All right, it was in 1938. It was about the same time as Social Security and Medicare started, but they said if you're working in the United States, you should be paid at least 38 cents an hour. Okay, which is crazy, but we've also talked about inflation and how that might have been adjusted throughout the years. From there, it wasn't changed until 1956 when it was $1, went up to $2, $3.10, $4.25, $5.15 in 1997, and then in 2009 is the current federal minimum wage of $7.25. I'm going to show you a quick link. So this is, I just went to departmentoflabor.gov and looked up minimum wage laws. So any of these states that are in gray are using the current $7.25. That's the minimum wage set by the federal government. Anything that's in blue has a higher minimum wage. For example, Washington has a minimum wage of $12 an hour. Oregon's $10.75. Alaska's $9.89. So it's kind of interesting to flip through these. Why might some states have a higher minimum wage than $7.25? Okay, what do you guys think? Right, so some good discussion is hopefully happening. From here. Okay, so this is where we're currently at in Iowa, is $7.25 an hour. I know there's always been some, you hear it in the news, they're talking about upping it, and some counties decide to up it, and then it's unconstitutional, so then they back it off. So something to think about is, depending on where you work, they could pay you less than minimum wage if an employee has worked where they're tipped. So this could be at a salon or as a waitress, something like that. An employee is not paid less than $2.13 an hour. That's their minimum wage. Indirect wages, if that amount plus the tips received equals at least the federal minimum wage. So what that means is, if you get a job at Texas Roadhouse or something like that for minimum, as a waitress, because you're earning tips, they could have your hourly pay be less than $7.25 an hour. So that's kind of an important thing to think about and ask when you get a job. Another thing is, if you're working, let's see, what's this one? A minimum wage of $4.25 applies to young workers under the age of 20 during the first 90 consecutive calendar days, as long as their work does not displace other workers. So it's kind of like if you were doing an internship or you were just kind of training, they could pay you less than minimum wage. Another place that you could see people get paid less than minimum wage is work study during college. So minimum wage when I was in college was $7.25, but I was paid $5 an hour, and that's because I was working on behalf of the college. So so there are some instances where they don't have to pay you minimum wage. Employer that hires students can obtain certificate. So this is the one for the college. The certificate also limits the hours. Work no more than 8 hours in a day, no more than 20 hours in a week, 40 hours when school is out. All right, overtime. If you have a regular paying job and you're working there, whatever they consider to be full-time, and you work more than what the normal hours is, they will sometimes pay you an additional rate. So one of those is time and a half, which means it's 1.5 times your regular rate. So if you get paid $10 an hour for your regular hours, 40 hours a week, and then let's say you have to work overtime, they may pay you $15 an hour, okay, if it's time and a half. And then there's double time, which would just be double your original rate. So if you got paid $10 an hour normally, maybe working a holiday or working overtime, you would get paid $20 an hour. So some examples related to that. Philip gets paid minimum wage, typically works 30 hours per week. What is his regular gross paycheck if he gets paid every 2 weeks? All right, so let's just focus on the first week. In his first week, he works 30 hours, and minimum wage is $7.25. So we just multiply those, the number of hours times the wage per hour, and get $217.50. So that's how much money he's making for 1 week. And if he gets paid every 2 weeks, we're going to double that amount. So that would mean his gross biweekly paycheck is $435. Then our last example is that Kelsey gets paid $8.30 per hour. Her regular hours are 40 hours per week. She receives time and a half for overtime. And let's say 1 week she works 55 hours. So how much would she get paid? Okay, you have to kind of do this in multi-steps. So the first step is the regular pay. Okay, regularly it's 40 hours, and those hours get paid at $8.30 per hour. So her normal paycheck is $332. From there, how many hours did she work overtime? Okay, she usually works 40, and now this time she worked 55. So she worked 15 hours as overtime, and those overtime hours get paid at time and a half. So 15 hours, and then the time and a half pay is 1.5 times $8.30, which was her regular rate per hour. So altogether, you get $186.75. Okay, that means combined, the total that she would bring home is the money earned for her regular 40 hours and then the money she earned with her overtime hours. She'd be at $518.75. Okay, with that wraps up our notes for 10.1. So I would like you for homework tonight to finish the 10.1 worksheet that's in your blue packet. And just a quick note, this is 2 pages, okay? 10.1 homework is 2 pages long. Okay? All right. Thanks, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.